Pittsburgh Steeler fans, it is time once again for another edition of the Curtain Call podcast. My name is Michael Beck, deputy editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, hanging out with you as always with one Mr. Geoffrey Benedict. Geoffrey, is the sky falling, sir? How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Michael. The sky may be falling, but I'm all right.
Well, at least part of that's positive, and maybe we can shed a little bit more positivity on tonight's show. But before we get to all that, we got some Pitt Panther prospects to get to, and we have a very special guest, Collin Sturchio from Cadriac Hill, the Pitt Panthers SB Nation blog, joining us tonight. Collin, how are you?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it really is our pleasure. Of course, quite notably, right off the top, Pitt's Pro Day was today. How did that go for the guys, Collin?
Honestly, I thought it went really well. It showcased some guys that I think, honestly, most guys, if you look at Pitt, are honestly who you want to look at. I mean, whether it's going to be first, second, third round, whatever it may be. But, I mean, you had a guy in – where was it? I mean, you just had anybody who – offense, defense, they pretty much covered today. And to me, it went well. And I thought it was what they needed.
Great. Geoffrey?
Yeah. So the big name to me, one of the biggest is, and physically the biggest, is Twyman. What's his first name?
Yes.
Jalen Twyman. Now, obviously, he did not play this year at all. So kind of where was he in 2019? What are we looking at for him after he missed a season?
I mean, to me, I thought he was great in last season. I know I read a stat earlier. He amassed 153 tackles over these past 2 years that he played. So, I mean, I don't know. I know his biggest reason for coming to Pitt was their defense on its own and also his love for Aaron Donald. I'm not going to say the guy's an Aaron Donald, but he's got the skill set.
Yeah, you watch some of his highlight films. He looks like Aaron Donald. He's wearing number 97, and you're like, wait, who is that?
Yeah, exactly. If you put him in the right system, I think that guy can be a star.
Now, with him as well, like when you look at Aaron Donald, like he'll take his shirt off every offseason, it seems like, to try to show off his six-pack, his 300-pound abs. Twyman, not quite the same body type. Of course, he repped out 40 reps on the bench press, which is just absolutely mind-boggling, crazy number. But then his 40 was, like, we saw a comparison today. It was in, the 0 percentile?
It's listed as the 0th percentile for his 40 time.
So, like, my question to you...
Not a runner.
Yeah.
God, no.
Can someone without that athletic ability translate still the NFL and be successful?
I think his biggest thing is going to be where he goes and, honestly, who the coach is, because a guy like that, you're going to want to have to see if you can get into his athleticism. He's got to have somewhere. But because if you can get a little bit of that speed going in him, if he has any, that guy's going to be a wrecking ball. And that's what you want staring down your quarterback.
I agree with that wholly. I love that they have defensive linemen and offensive linemen run 40 yards, and I'm like, if Cam Hayward runs 10 yards, the play should be over. Like it should be done. It should be done by then. So I'm not big on the 40 time for him. Love his film. Absolutely love his film. Have you heard anything about where people expect Twyman to go? I know people are saying he probably will drop because he didn't play last year, but I had heard him rumored as a first round pick. And now, like, you look on draft boards, you don't even see him listed in like a top 3 rounds. You don't see him in top 100 reports even.
Which I think is kind of crazy. I mean, I know Pitt, they've had their standouts, but a lot of guys, especially here recently, have just kind of gone really late. Looking at his talent, I say third round, late third round maybe. Kind of just depending on what everybody's looking for. But in all honesty, if he would have played last year, I think he very well could have been a first or second round pick. But I think not playing drops him off because you got to worry, is there rust? Is he going to get injured? Is there something that he had before that nobody knew?
Yeah. At 40 bench presses and late third round, If he's there, I hope the Steelers grab him at that point because for a third defensive lineman, man,
you and me both.
Yeah, like I said before, those bench numbers just crazy. You're able to push any center guard back at that point. Steelers need a nose tackle. We will get into that a little bit later. But keeping on with that kind of draft valuation, Paris Ford today had pretty much about as bad a day as someone could really have in their pro day. Like his numbers weren't very good. I was telling Geoffrey before this started up, he almost would have been better maybe to just take the day off.
Yeah, I got to agree with you.
Now, when someone tests that poorly, do you think he could even be drafted at all after that?
If he is, it's going to be late. I say maybe somebody throws a flyer on him in the 6th or 7th round, and it's kind of just going to be, we could throw him on our practice squad. Maybe he cracks the team. I think he's got talent. It's not that. It's just a matter of, is his skill set going to translate to the league? And honestly, that's the biggest question. You've had great college stars that end up being mega bust. Now,
with him too, when you watched him play, now did his athleticism look more like game speed? Like, was he better in game, or did he always seem like he was missing a step?
To me, I thought he was always better in game, but I mean, that could just be my eye. I don't know what other people who have watched the Panthers would say. To me, I liked him in game. I think if you put that guy in a certain spotlight, he's got a chance to shine. It's just a matter of really, is somebody going to give him a chance? And if not, I think if he goes undrafted, don't be surprised if he ends up getting signed in that first pool of people.
Okay, so with Paris Ford, is he what kind of safety is he? I know he plays more of the free safety, but is he a cover one safety? Is he a guy who can play all the deep zone? Is he a guy who comes up in man or comes up in the box? What does he bring to the field?
To me, in all honesty, if you look at him, I think he's a guy that he reminds me of a ball hawk. He's not a guy you're going to want to throw deep on because he's got a chance to either swat that ball, catch that ball, and run it back on you. And it's just a matter of, if you put somebody in man with him, you've got a shot on him picking them off. I think in cover, that might be his lowest spot. But other than that, I say don't throw deep on the guy.
Now, I got a feeling you might also agree that he's probably the biggest faller of the day when it comes to Pitt prospects. But who would you say is the biggest riser?
I mean, I look at a guy like Patrick Jones, and it's somebody like that where I go, wow, they've got a chance to really make an impact in the league, personally.
With Patrick Jones, a lot of people are talking about him. Is he a defensive end? Because he's 260? He's around what Bud Dupree was playing for the Steelers. Is he more of do you think he's going to be a good outside linebacker, or does he need to be in a scheme that's going to really focus him on rushing and not drop him into coverage much?
I think he's got a shot to be a good outside linebacker. I won't say the Steelers should go and take him first, second round, God no, but you can get him on the 3rd or 4th round. I say give him a shot, because look at Dupree's first season. People took him out on the 1st round, and I'll even admit, I thought they were crazy, especially after the first season. And look what he came into. It's just a matter of, and I think with Tomlin's scheme, he works perfect. It's just a matter of where he goes and what people think they can do with him.
Now, with Patrick Jones as well, and specifically playing that role that the Steelers, of course, use their edge guys as a stand-up outside linebacker, would he translate better, or what about Rashad Weaver?
I still think Jones, but Rashad's not a bad backup at all.
And with that, is Weaver someone you could see making any sort of impact right away, or is he more of a special teamer that could potentially just sub in every now and then?
I think it would be more of the second option, kind of have him learn whatever playbook he's having to go onto, and give him a shot on special teams if he shines. Maybe if it's garbage time in a game, let him go and see what he can do. Because, I mean, it depends where he drops or where he goes to. But all in all, I think that's a guy you could see shine. It's just a matter of how long is it going to take.
Yeah, he's got a very similar athletic profile to Patrick Jones. It just seemed like Jones was Would you agree with it that Jones was just much more polished, whereas Rashad Weaver was just kind of, he's a big guy that's like, he's out there, he's not bad, but he's not polished.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I mean, we've all seen prospects. I've seen a guy down here in Georgia in Jarvis Jones that I thought was going to be fantastic, and look what he did for the Steelers. So it's just a matter of, I think that Jones is a more is a more polished player, but anything's up in the air at this point.
Gotcha. Now, really, when it comes to those two guys, is someone a better just pure pass rusher? And like, that's something Steelers, I think, take a little bit of value in, especially when it comes to their backups. And something they've kind of struggled with is just having someone that could just step on the field and just be a pass rusher. Between Weaver and Jones, is there one of them that you'd say, okay, that guy can be, he could specialize in just that?
I say it's Jones. That's just the way I see him play. He's got that nose to just kind of go after it and go after the quarterback. And that's why I say if he's second, third round, somewhere in there, I say somebody gives him a shot. Because to me personally, he's kind of like Twyman. He's got first round talent, but nobody's going to want to pay him first round money.
That's a good point. Another guy who kind of showed up really big in the pro day. We had a lot of numbers that weren't that great, but Andrew Pinnock, the cornerback, he had a phenomenal day for his athletic testing. What have you seen from him on film and in game?
I mean, I'm seeing he started 19 games, and I think today did something to kind of really show his stock and kind of give him a boost, because I think if he wouldn't have gone in today, there aren't a lot of guys I think that would have given him a shot. He probably would have gone undrafted, maybe would have been picked up. But I think a day like today showed, did we go and show him late, maybe fifth round, somewhere around there, and just give him a chance? Because if today showed anything, when the spotlight's on, he's got a chance to shine.
Yeah, it's going to be sending a lot of people back to watch his college film a second time now.
Oh, yeah. And that's a guy I will openly admit I did not think was going to turn heads the way he did today.
That's really interesting. Now, when it comes to him as well, I'm curious what kind of corner you kind of foresee him as. Is he more of a man-to-man guy, someone who's successful in zone? Is he more of a nickel? What do you see out of Pinnock?
I don't know. It kind of would depend who he goes to. If I had to guess, I'd say maybe he'd do good in man, but it really just kind of depends. Because to me, he seems like a guy that's very versatile on a defense, and will just work where you put him.
Okay, yeah, and with those numbers, I mean, you could have access anywhere if he's good, if he's got the talent. Demar Hamlin, there's the strong safety back there with Paris Ford.
Oh yeah.
What's he bring to the field? What did you see in him this season?
I mean, from what I saw from him, he's got a good. To me, he's best in man. In all honesty, just put him on a guy, and good luck getting that ball squeezed in. That's the way I look at it. And if you're a team needing a safety at a cheap price, I say he's worth a chance. I don't know what round somebody's going to be willing to put him at, but I say give him a shot.
Obviously, we've been talking a little bit of time here on these secondary players. Is one of these guys stand out above the rest as someone who's clearly the best when it comes to the corners and safeties?
Honestly, to me, if there's anybody that I think is worth going to the combine or anything like that, it's Twyman. And even with this year off, because I think if he would have played this season, his draft stock would have been raised tremendously. And honestly, he might have helped us a few games here or there trying to get wins.
You would rank him better than either of the edge rushers?
I would. And that's just, to me, I see something in him. I see talent, and I don't know how well it translates overall, but I think you've got to give him the benefit of the doubt and the talent that he has. Because like I said, if you have somebody that can break into that athleticism, he's got a chance to be a menace on a quarterback.
Okay. With okay, so that's the pass rushers. With the Pinnock, Ford, and Hamlin, the two safeties and the cornerback. Which one of those stood out to you the most?
Honestly, I gotta go with Ford, and it's just I've seen him all season, and he's just got the talent. Again, I don't know where somebody's gonna put him, but I think you've just got a shot to have a great player on defense, see where he goes for a few years, and just see if he's worth a chance. I mean, like I said, we've had a guy in Dupree that nobody thought anything was going to be worth of, and look what he came. So,
yeah.
If I can flip over to the offensive side of the ball for a second here, Jimmy Morrissey, of course, yeah, center. Steelers are definitely going to be in need of someone to play that position. Now, is Morrissey someone that's pro ready? Is he someone that's kind of more destined to be a practice squad guy or drafted at all, really?
Honestly, coming out of college, I think he's more of a backup. I wouldn't say necessarily it would be the worst thing for the Steelers to pick him up if they can get him late. I think he'd be a great backup that you can mold into something, but I don't think he's NFL ready to start.
Okay. Yeah, that works. Anyone else on Pitt's offense that really stood out to you that's coming out? Who else do they even have coming out? They have a wide receiver.
DJ Turner.
DJ Turner. That's right. Sorry, I lost his name. What about him? What stands out to you? What do you think of him?
I mean, I know I saw today he did 23 reps, and which was more than anybody else at last year's combine. And to me, he's got the hands that you need, but I think more than anything, he's got some speed behind him, and that's going to help. And also with the reps, I think we might have another situation where if it's a Juju and a perfect situation, you might be having a stiff arm come out. And if he comes to the Steelers, I would be perfectly fine seeing a stiff arm come out.
Well, there was because he stood out to me as having potential. His size, his weight, his speed, kind of like his film. You've got a guy like Amari Rodgers from Clemson, who people are looking at high in the draft as kind of that, not really a wide receiver, not really a running back. He's just a playmaker, and fit him in the offense where you can, and he can do returns. And DJ Turner kind of stands out to me as a very similar player, and from the looks of it and what I've heard about him, he's got a similar athletic profile. He's just flying under the radar.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not going to help him money-wise, but it's going to help some team payroll-wise and talent-wise, because he's got a skill set to be, maybe not instantly, but he's definitely got a skill set to make an impact on the offense, whether it's receiving. Because to me, he almost reminds me of a mix between a wide receiver and a tight end. He's got that girth to him that he needs. And that's just the way I look at it. I think he's under the radar, but he's got a shot to make an impact on whatever team he goes to.
So I like how you put that with him being between like a wide receiver and tight end, because Matt Canada, everywhere he's gone, including when he was at Pitt, used players as wingbacks, and he loves those athletic players with a little size to them that they can block a little bit. They can provide those kind of mismatches, run the ball, catch the ball. So he's one of my guys I'm looking at saying that could be the kind of a Matt Canada pickup.
For sure. Don't be surprised if they if they've got a chance, take a flyer on them. I would.
Now, what about the rest of the offense? Is there anyone else we should know of or pay attention to?
Personally, not that I can think of offhand. To me, if there was anybody that I would have said, it would have been Pickett, just as a backup to start, but you're not going to get that. So,
yeah. So do you think throw in Pickett, just throw him out there. Do you think he would have been a good pickup this year, or do you think he was really made the right decision? He needed another year to go back.
I think he made the right decision because I love him as a quarterback. I think he's got the skill set that you need. And I think Narduzzi's got that ability to just kind of tap into him, because we've seen some great games out of him and we've seen some garbage games out of him.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, I think regardless, even with this coming year, he's not going to be one of those talents that comes out and is a first or second round pick. To me, he's maybe in Mason's category in the third or fourth, but he's definitely got a shot to at least make a team when he does come out. I think if he starts anywhere, it's going to be on a really bad team, but most likely he's going to be a backup.
And you know what? With next year's quarterback class as well, I kind of foresee it kind of playing the way out, kind of how Joe Burrow shot up out of nowhere. Somebody who thought was going to be a mid-round pick. Really seems like no one's really grabbed that brass ring yet. So that's it's probably a good decision for a guy like Pickett to go back to school. But focusing more so on this draft class again, I kind of figure your favorite best prospect would be Twyman. Who's the sleeper guy? Who's the guy that you say, okay, Twyman's like he's going to be great. You're overlooking this guy. Who'd that be?
On offense or defense?
The whole team.
DJ Turner, 100%. Because like I said, he's got the talent that you need, but he's just flying under the radar, and I don't quite know why. Maybe it's because he's on Pitt. I don't know. But I think that's the guy that somebody is going to take a shot on, and within a year or two, somebody's going to wish they would have taken him.
I like that. That's one of the guys. That's one of my favorite picks from here. Now, going away from this draft a little bit, there's a question I wanted to ask you. What do you think about James Conner right now? He's still out there. He's still available. What are your thoughts on James Conner?
I love the story of James Conner, and I've said it with all my friends, I don't think he's a starting back. I really don't. He's a guy that you do what we've been doing, where you mix him in with Benny Snell and just our rushing core, but it's not like we got Le'Veon Bell in that backfield anymore, to me. He showed off that first season, which I think showed that our run game can work, and it's not just a plug and play, but you still have to have that talent.
Yeah, looking at the current free agents out there, I had a story that ran today on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com about why James Conner could absolutely end up being the guy that becomes the runner again for another season, just based on the way the market's kind of shaping up. But Le'Veon Bell could be another name, just based on price. That's two guys I wouldn't be surprised of.
It very well could. To me, if the Steelers are smart, they take a running back in the second round.
There might not be one in the second round, though, but
yeah,
we can get in. Yeah, we can get into that a little bit more here. I will touch on a couple more draft things before we can flip over to the second side. I will pose this question to both yourself, Colin, and Geoffrey. Pitt, of course, being the local school, of course, in some circumstances, some teams definitely pick players out of those local schools a little bit more. Do you kind of foresee that with the Steelers and the Pitt Panthers? Does that make sense? Colin, I'll start with you on this. Are the Steelers a team more likely to draft someone because they are local and, in this case, in the same facilities?
Granted, you see this every draft. I think if it's late, unless it's a superstar, which I don't think there's any guy that you go after in the first round out of Pitt that screams that the Steelers have to have him. But I think if it's a flyer late in the draft, I don't see why not. I mean, you get the hometown discount at that point.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. But Geoffrey, I'm curious your thoughts. Would you be more likely to take someone, say an outside linebacker from Pitt, outside of taking someone from, say, the University of California?
I think there is that chance. If anyone knows whether Patrick Jones can play outside linebacker, it'd be the Steelers. I mean, they've seen him run drills. They've seen him do things. For all we know, they've gotten to actually, make little suggestions to the coaching staff and be like, hey, can you have him run this and like have him do stuff, So I think the Steelers have an advantage in knowing whether a player like that can make the jump, make a switch because they have so much more experience with them. I think the player, we've talked about him a couple of times now, but DJ Turner has a real shot to be drafted by the Steelers, as we talked about right before the show. He's a Maryland transfer. So you have like the Matt Canada, like he went to Maryland. He played with Mike Tomlin's kid, and then he transferred to Pitt, so they had him in the room. He fits all the check boxes for what Steeler Nations believe the Steelers do. So I would not be surprised if DJ Turner ends up, if he's there in the 6th, 7th round, would not be surprised to see him. And if he goes undrafted, I bet the Steelers make a real play for him.
No, I completely agree. If there's anybody out of the Panthers that the Steelers have a shot at, it's DJ Turner. And it's going to be late or it's going to be undrafted. But you've got the Tomlin connection, like you said, and you've got the Matt Canada connection. But to me, he fits in our scheme. And I say give him a shot if there's anybody.
What I say there before, Geoffrey, before the show, as Andrew Wilbar throws in the comments in the live chat, he says Maryland transfer right into Penn, 6th round. But I think we've kind of exhausted the Pitt prospect talks. Geoffrey, do you have anything else you want to include on here?
No, not really, man. I'm good.
All right, so we will flip over the second part of our podcast now. We're going to jump into a quick couple second break. If you're listening on the podcast side, just flip over to part 2 now. If you're on Facebook or YouTube watching us, just hang tight. We're not going anywhere. Second half of the show, however, we will be talking a little bit more on the Steelers, specifically free agency and what that means for the draft. So hang tight, and we will be back in just a second.
This is the break.
You did that for bad, but we are back for the second part of our show. It is the Curtain Call podcast. Once again, my name is Michael Beck, joined with Geoffrey, Benedict, and special guest Collin Sturchio is hanging out with us. Of course, he's a big Steelers fan, so we're going to get his opinions on a couple things here as well as we keep going. Of course, Collin is from Cadriac Hill, the Pitt Panthers SB Nation blog site. So, Geoffrey, I know this is something we talked about a little bit earlier, but kind of one of the big things really with the Steelers right now, and especially with the kind of slot corner position, they decided on signing Cam Sutton and watching Mike Hilton walk out the door and head over to Cincinnati. How does he replace Mike Hilton as a nickel, and does this change the defense completely?
It does. It changes our nickel defense specifically quite a bit. Cameron Sutton is not the presence in the run game that Mike Hilton is. Mike Hilton can take on a block from an offensive lineman. He's done that. It's absolutely insane when you see it on video, but there are times he wins, a head-to-head block with an offensive lineman, and you're just like, I can't believe Mike Hilton just did that. Cameron Sutton's not that guy. Cameron Sutton is more the guy that, like, when a running back comes to block him, he might be backing up. He's like, whoa, dude, like, chill, like, don't be hitting me. He's just not. And when he does get blocked, even wide receivers, he's not getting off that block well. It's just not something he does well. He will make good tackles in open space. He's gotten much better at that, which I think is a key to the Steelers bringing him back, is he has shown he can do that. But he's much more coverage. He's much more deep coverage. He's much more of a zone guy. Mike Hilton was all about jumping short routes, being physical in releases, and blitzing, and being in run defense. Cameron Sutton is a negative in the blitz game. The Steelers have blitzed him like 3 times, and every time it was obvious it was a mistake. Like, it's not something he's good at. Often in run plays, even when he's in the slot, you'll see him. He can't find the ball. He's looking for the ball, and he's moving, and you'll see him move to like try and see where the ball is around an offensive line, and he moves the wrong way, and he completely takes himself out of the play. That's Cameron Sutton. So the big change there is you got better deep coverage, you've got much worse run defense, and you've got no blitzing. So for me, the minute Cameron Sutton signed, I was like, if this means Mike Hilton's gone, then Vince Williams is a problem. Because you have Devin Bush, who has a lot of speed sideline to sideline, but he has to cover for Vince Williams in coverage. So he can't really be the guy, hey, also can you help Cameron Sutton over here on run defense and also cover for Vince Williams if it's a pass play. So to me, the Steelers, the change it makes to the Steelers is that second linebacker being more athletic is much more important, because while Cameron Sutton adds to your deeper defense and puts less stress on Minkah Fitzpatrick and Terrell Edmonds to be that support behind him, you've got a lot more pressure on the linebackers in the run game out of nickel specifically. So that's how that changes the defense to me. And if you're looking at the draft, that means you need somebody to help that position. You need either a second linebacker or, another safety, something like that, to really boost the Steelers when they do go to nickel.
Colin, I will get to you with another question, but I do want to follow that up, Geoffrey. I've talked a lot about how much I love Zaven Collins as a prospect. That's a first-round inside linebacker. I know some people say he's an outside linebacker. To me, I think that's a waste of talent with his ability to cover the entire field. Could the Steelers potentially be going inside linebacker in round 1?
Absolutely. I would love it. I would personally love it. That was another one. I'm one of those guys, though, that like if you give me a defensive player in the first round, I'm happy. If you give me an impact defensive player, and then like week 8, I'm like, oh yeah, offense matters too. We probably should have dealt with that offensive line, but whatever. Our defense is awesome. Zaven Collins. I've said it before. I think he could be a Kendrell Bell level impact on this defense. He's hitting all the stats. Like, if you watch Vince Williams, if you look at Vince Williams when he was playing with Bud Dupree, or when he was playing with Devin Bush, Bud Dupree was also healthy then. But when Devin Bush, before he got hurt, Vince Williams was leading the NFL in tackles for a loss. He was getting sacks. He was making plays in the opponent's backfield. If you had a guy like Zaven Collins, and for his rookie season, you're like, look, we're going to limit the coverage responsibilities you have, and we're going to let you get after it. He could be that kind of a player that just blows up as a rookie and puts up all kinds of stats because he's just that, he has that athletic profile and he's an aggressive player, and you're in a defense that rewards that.
Yeah. You know what? For me, watching Collins on tape absolutely jumps off the paper in every sense. His coverage ability, his size, one heck of a player, and really is that clutch factor that you don't really see from a lot of players too. If you haven't watched his tape, I highly suggest it. If that kid played at Alabama, he'd be a top 5 pick, period. That's just how it'd go, especially with tape like that. It would be unquestioned. But taking a step back, and Colin, throwing it to you with this nickel corner spot, how do you feel with the Steelers choosing Cam Sutton basically over Mike Hilton here?
I mean, I think it's great. I never personally liked Hilton in our defense. Just the way he played, and I'm not too sad to see him go to Cincinnati at all. I think it's a position you can pick up in the draft and be fine. I've never complained once when we've picked a defensive player in our first round pick. I personally think we should go offense, but I'm not going to be mad if they go defense either, because that's what we're known for. And even last year and the year before, when we were terrible the year before, I said, at least we've got a killer defense to come in when Ben comes back. And that's what we had.
Yeah, you know what? I'll lead that into Geoffrey with Mike Hilton. But like you said, if the Bengals don't use him correctly, and their system suggests they probably won't, he could struggle. He got his payday, but Hilton's not the coverage guy. But I will also touch on what you said, Colin, there. Defensively, on the board, if Zaven Collins is there, he's probably the best player available, unless one of these crazy tackles, one of the top 3 guys drops.
Oh, yeah.
If Zaven Collins is playing for the Browns or the Ravens, it's going to be a long decade to be a Steelers fan. I'm telling you that right now. He is unbelievable. But, Geoffrey, when it comes to Mike Hilton, that loss, do you think that's a spot, if he's used incorrectly, the Steelers could potentially take advantage of when they play Cincinnati twice a year?
Well, Cincinnati, that's the question. They got a player who fits a very specific play profile. I've talked about this before. If you look at when Ryan Shazier switched to being more of a coverage guy, really, really honed his game as a coverage linebacker in 2017, of course, right before he tragically, his career ended, Mike Hilton and Vince Williams went off that year. They were both really good living in the opponent's backfield, with Ryan Shazier being that coverage linebacker. This year, with Devin Bush being that coverage linebacker, Vince Williams and Mike Hilton right back up there, boom, putting up stats. Despite the fact that they're not the best players, they were leading the team. I think Mike Hilton actually at one point was leading the team in tackles after week 4. And Vince Williams led the NFL in tackles for loss. That's just ridiculous. They're good players. They're not great players, but they were putting up insane statistics because of the system they were in. Mike Hilton going to Cincinnati, where Cincinnati is death for pass rushing. They take incredible talents on that defensive line and make them look average. So I don't know what they're going to do with Mike Hilton. If they think they've replaced William Jackson, they haven't. That's not what you've done. It's a totally different kind of player. And he brings a difference. He brings a very unique skill set that the Steelers build around, and the Steelers are clearly going in a different direction now. So yeah, if they're not using him that way, then if they're not using him to blitz, if they're not letting him be aggressive, if they're making him be more cautious, you're going to see the Mike Hilton we saw in 2018. You're going to see that Mike Hilton, and that's not a great Mike Hilton. That's a solid, he's a decent player at that point. He's not the impact player he was in Pittsburgh this season.
We'll get to some more draft talk a little bit later on, but I do want to kind of transition and look a little more specifically in free agency right now. And Colin, I'll kind of throw this to you first. Who's kind of your favorite prospect that you'd say potentially still available right now that might actually be a decent fit with the Steelers?
God, I mean, I've been so worried the past couple of days with what we've been losing more than anything. The Cam Hayward tweets yesterday were killing me. So honestly, I haven't really had a chance to look, so I can't really give an option on who I think's our best fit.
You know what? I will say something on that though. The Steelers' core is still together right now. What they're losing is kind of like, if you look at it like a house, the frame's still there, the foundation's there, but right now the television and the washing machine and the dryer and the dishwasher, it just got all thrown out in the curb. You don't have those pieces, and that's kind of what I think is still available to be addressed, especially draft-wise. Those guys might take a couple years to develop. But Geoffrey, do you think that it's as dire as a lot of fans right now kind of look at it being?
I don't think it's that bad. This is an exaggerated year for free agency. People are losing more and they're signing more. But this is what the Steelers always do. They lose a few players. They sit out the first few days, and then they find some decent guys, sometimes a really good one towards the end. I'm not panicked at all. The core of this, the core of the defense is together. The offense, really, you're missing a center. You badly are missing a center, and you need a running back. That's it. So I'm not really concerned.
Well, Michael, I hope you don't mind if I say something here.
Go ahead.
To me, in all honesty, I look at, if we lose Juju, we lose Juju. I can see a guy like Golden Tate getting dirt cheap towards the end of the offseason, because I have a feeling as you get into training camp, it's going to be a lot like how baseball's been. There's going to be a lot of guys laid on that aren't going to have a job and are just going to want a job. You can pick a guy like Golden Tate and throw him in. I say we worry on our run game and pick up a few pieces on defense, but when it comes to the draft, try and focus on O-line unless you've got somebody that drops or that you can add at a decent spot. And in all honesty, the one guy that I'm surprised hasn't signed is Clowney. And I don't know what it is about Clowney. He always seems to have this – he's a big name, but he never signs anywhere instantly. And I don't know what it is.
You know what? Clowney would shine in a system that has stars around it, like he did when he was playing next to J.J. Watt. Maybe playing opposite T.J. Watt could do that for him once again. But yeah, really, right now, free agency to me, and I've been preaching this a lot. And really, this market, when you look at other leagues, what's happened, the money dries up really quick, and you already see that happening. There's going to be this second wave of free agency. It's hard to predict when that will happen. But there's going to be a number of guys that are going to be coming off the board at 1 year, $1 million, and people are going to be legitimately shocked by it. It is coming, and there is still a plethora of names that could step in and potentially be starters almost day one for the Steelers right now. So slow playing this, in my mind, is really one of the best ways to go about it. But by doing so, slow playing, you'd be losing your own players as well. So, Geoffrey, I'm going to pose this to you first. Is there any world where you see this team bringing back either Juju Smith-Schuster or Alejandro Villanueva as they still are available out there? Do either player even make sense for the future of this team?
Okay, let me give you a scenario of a Juju Smith-Schuster returning to Pittsburgh. All right, you would sign him to a 1-year deal. It would be a $13 million deal where you pay him base salary this year with a $12 million signing bonus with 5 void years at the end of it. And this year he would count $3 million against the cap, and next year 10. That's the kind of deal you're talking about with Juju Smith-Schuster. You would really have to just make it a deal where you say, we'll pay you today, we'll pay for it next year, and then you're out. And honestly, if Juju Smith-Schuster would be stupid to take it, he would, because we're not going to use him right. it's pretty clear we moved him into kind of, I don't want to say he was supporting Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson, but when the Steelers were looking at routes, when they're looking at where guys are lining up, they lined up Deontay Johnson where he worked best. They lined up Chase Claypool where he worked best. They had those guys run their best routes, and then Juju kind of filled in like the gaps because he was that guy. He's the most versatile. He can do pretty much anything at a wide receiver position you want him to do, except just, be a streak down the field and a go route. And they used him that way. They used him in a lot of junk routes. And the other problem with the offense was Randy Fichtner. Obviously, like maybe Matt Canada could go to him and be like, look, this is how we'd use you. And this is how we'd actually make you a good player again, instead of running routes where the defense can just I'm going on a rant here, but that whole take what the defense gives you thing, that was legit. The Steelers were just running guys on routes and letting the defense choose who to cover. And of course, they're covering Juju. They're covering the guy who doesn't drop a pass. They're covering the guy with the most, tied with Hines Ward for the most 60-yard pass receptions since 1990 something, right? More than Antonio Brown had in his entire career with Pittsburgh. Juju had more 60-yard routes, more 60-yard pass receptions than Antonio Brown. He tied Hines Ward for Hines Ward's entire career in 4 years. Like, this is Juju Smith-Schuster, the dude, and we're just like, run a 2-yard route and maybe we'll throw the ball to you as you get like destroyed by 3 linebackers. Like, it was awful. So I hate Randy Fichtner's offense. And he destroyed Juju Smith-Schuster. He destroyed Antonio Brown for the first part of 2018, and then he destroyed Juju Smith-Schuster after that by just letting defenses take him out of the game. And, of course, defenses gave you the guys who would drop the ball to throw to. They're like, yeah, you can throw to those guys because they'll drop it.
Colin, I'm going to get you to answer the same question, but this is popping up in the live chat that I want Geoffrey to also answer here just before it disappears. Andrew Willibar says Matt Canada's system requires a mobile quarterback. What do you have to say to that, Geoffrey?
No, can I pass that off? Can I pass that off? Because he's dying. Let him do it.
Go for it, Colin. Sure.
I'm sorry. No, that doesn't work at all. That's literally all I can say. It just doesn't, to me, it doesn't fit. And I hate Mason Rudolph as a quarterback. I really do. I just don't think he fits in our system, but I'm not mad at at having I'm blanking on his name right now, but
Dwayne Haskins?
Yes, thank you. I'm not mad at the Haskins signing at all because I feel like that's a guy that you can mold in, especially this year. To me, if you're looking at our depth chart, Ben, Haskins, Rudolph. And because that's a guy, I'm sorry, he got let go from Washington for the most BS reason I've ever seen, to just drop your quarterback. And he showed talent. It wasn't great, but it was also his first time really going out there to me. It's a guy who's got talent and I think could be the next phase.
Colin, real quick, who is the quarterback that beat Clemson?
Remind me.
For Pitt, what was his name?
Remind me.
Yeah, and how fast was that guy? How many rushing yards did he pick up?
Exactly.
Come on, people. That's not a mobile quarterback. That's not a mobile quarterback. When he was, this is my thing on Matt Canada. No matter who he has, he does well. He went to Indiana. This is my big thing. He had 3 quarterbacks in Indiana that he coached when he was offensive coordinator. 3 quarterbacks. One of them ran the ball really well. One of them was kind of average. He had like 100 yards rushing over the course of a season on scrambles. The other guy was negative, meaning he's in the pocket. He does not escape pressure, nothing. All 3 of them were 1, 2, 3 in season passing yards and passing touchdowns when he finished his time in Indiana. The top 3 passing seasons for an Indiana quarterback were the 3 guys he coached, and they were different quarterbacks. He doesn't have to have a mobile quarterback. Now, obviously, it's easier, but go watch the Clemson game, man. Like, the craziest play they would run was that thing with James Conner and whoever the tight end was. Was that Orndorff or Orn? What was his name? Scott. Whatever the tight end's name was. They would run Baltimore's veer option with a quarterback who didn't run. It was either a handoff to James Washington or a little shovel pass to the
James
tight
Conner.
end. Yeah, it was either James Conner going outside or a shovel pass to the tight end up the middle. They didn't run their quarterback, but they still used the same offense that he always runs with a quarterback. They like mimicked the quarterback running with a shovel pass. It was incredible. So I'm not worried about that. Canada can figure it out. He can design an offense, around whatever quarterback he has, including Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger.
100%.
I really want to put that up because I've seen that narrative pop up a few times. I just really want people to know that it doesn't matter who that is in the pocket. Matt Canada, he's not Randy Fichtner. He's not square peg in a round hole. They're legitimately trying to get these guys in the best positions to succeed. They'll do that with Ben Roethlisberger. They'll do that with the next guy.
Well, I'll add, any mobility is a plus.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, Ben Roethlisberger throwing defensive linemen to the ground and running around for 10 seconds before throwing a touchdown pass was a plus. It doesn't matter what the offense is. That's going to be a positive. Mobility is a plus. But if you're looking at like a guy who can run but isn't as good of a passer versus a guy who can actually throw the ball legit at the NFL level, like, there's no question. Take the guy who can throw. Matt Canada will design an offense around him.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Now, to get more to the topic at hand, I love going on these tangents. We do it every Wednesday night. But to get back to the more free agency side of things, Colin, maybe I'll start with you on this one. When it comes to these holes on the Steelers' current roster, clearly it might make the draft easier, make future success and even success in this coming season more likely by filling some of these holes with a veteran player. What spot would you specifically point at and be like, if they're going to sign one free agent, that's the position that they got to fill the need for?
Honest, to me, if there's a position, and it's not necessarily that it's the most desperate one to sign a guy with, but like I said earlier, if we have some depletions at wide receiver, there are so many guys on the market. And it's mainly to me because of Juju. I love Juju. Juju's got talent. But I heard earlier this week on the Pittsburgh sports station, there's a big difference when people say that Juju is not an AB. You're right. Juju is a good wide receiver, not a career-defining wide receiver like Antonio Brown was. You've got guys on the free agent market that I feel that you can plug in there and be just fine. Because if there's one thing I've learned with the Steelers a lot of times, as long as you have some talent, you're going to get a shot and you're going to be able to show what you're worth. I look at a guy like James Washington right now on our team, underutilized 100%, but when you put him on the starlight, he's got a chance to shine. And look what Claypool did in his first year.
I'll support that, Colin. If you go back to 2019, look at James Washington's game log. Look at Juju Smith-Schuster's game log. When Juju Smith-Schuster was not playing on the field, or when he was playing hurt and he was really not, his snaps started getting reduced and he was playing hurt, James Washington went off.
Oh, yeah.
Then all of a sudden, week 17, Juju Smith-Schuster returns for that Jets game. James Washington goes to the bench and the offense can't do anything.
To me, in all honesty, what I feel was hurting us more last year was honestly the constant start, stop with Johnson. Because if there was anybody besides Claypool that was making an impact on the offense, it was Deontay Johnson. That's who I'd be more worried to have something happen with than Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah. I'm with you there. I think James Washington steps into the role they had Juju Smith-Schuster play last year, which to me, Juju Smith-Schuster is better than that role. He deserved a bigger part of the offense than they gave him. But for what they gave him last year, James Washington can do that.
Oh, yeah.
James Washington can thrive in that role. So for me, yeah, Juju Smith-Schuster is not a huge loss. Love the player, but the Steelers have already, it's like when Joey Porter left. You know, I loved Joey Porter, but we had James Harrison riding the bench. You know, you don't pay Joey Porter when you got James Harrison waiting to start.
Now, the question that I posed to Colin about the one position that you'd fill, Colin gives wide receiver. Are you sticking with that as well, Geoffrey? If the Steelers can sign one street free agent, what position would it be?
One street free agent. I'm going. There's not good centers left. I don't like any of the centers left. This is hard. You know where I'm going? I really don't like them.
Not even David Andrews. He's pretty good.
Yeah, he's good. I think, though. Yeah, that's the problem. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. I'm drawing a blank. I just had his name. I just went complete blank. James White, running back.
Ooh,
okay.
That would be my dude. Because what the Steelers don't have with James Conner out is that kind of receiver, runner, blocker. You know, you put James White in a shotgun set. You could put James White anywhere in a Matt Canada offense. You could play him at wingback. You could put him in the slot. You can do all that stuff. James White, to me, would be an incredible signing. He's 29. He's not done. And he's also that kind of veteran. You know, how many Super Bowls has he been to? Like, you know, that kind of a guy. He has won in the playoffs. He knows that kind of mentality. He would bring that into a locker room. When you bring in, see, James White to me is a support guy for a new rookie running back, and I think he'd be a fantastic one. And that lets you kind of ease off with Benny Snell, who I think is kind of played out with the Steelers.
I'm going to throw this out here and tell me what you guys think. And honestly, this is more of just a feeler. I don't know what people think about Todd Gurley or Kenyon Drake, but you've got shots in them too.
I'd like Kenyon Drake. I like Kenyon Drake as a runner. I think Todd Gurley is Le'Veon Bell at this point. Great player, great talent, but he's overused and he's done.
I can see where you're coming from with that.
Gurley's, I would say he's completely past his expiration date. I wouldn't be surprised if Le'Veon Bell had one more decent, like I'm not saying prime 1,000 rushing, 1,000 receiving Le'Veon Bell by any stretch of the imagination. The Jets, horrible offensive line his entire career there. The second he signed, I was laughing like this guy's going to be tackled in the backfield when he is trying to be patient. And then eventually when he gets cut, makes his way to Kansas City, he doesn't fit the system whatsoever. I could see him having a little bit of success and coming to at a price tag that is very, very small.
I could see it. He could fit. I don't think the Steelers would go back there.
I don't either.
Like, honestly, that's why I like James White. Is I think James White at this point in his career, and at Le'Veon Bell's this point in Le'Veon Bell's career, James White brings you very similar stuff. And I think he'd be cheaper, and I think he brings more in the leadership and character department than Bell really brought.
Well,
besides, Terrell Edmonds is a better rapper than Le'Veon Bell.
Oh God. I mean, personally for me, I don't ever see the Steelers going back to there. I felt like when he got franchise tagged, that was his shot. We were saying, here's our olive branch. If you don't take it, we're not going to see you again. And I'm perfectly fine with that. But I know I saw somebody, and I'm sorry, I can't give credit to whoever it is. I don't see it in the chat. But Jesse James, I wouldn't say would be a terrible pickup in free agency if you can get him cheap.
That's another one. He was a solid number 2, not great number 2, but he was very solid. And Detroit just was like, we'll throw insane money at you for, I don't know why they did that. Detroit's just dumb. That was a dumb contract.
Horrible.
Jesse, not that I blame Jesse James, man. If someone's going to drastically overpay me and I'm going to fail out of that job in a couple of years, you know what? I'll take it. Go ahead, promote me way past my ability to do the job. That's fine. You want to hire me as a rocket scientist and pay me a ton of money? I'll do it. I can't build rockets. You're going to fire me pretty quick, but I'll take the paychecks until you figure that out.
And he totally caught that ball. Just so
also, yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The Jesse James rule. The Jesse James rule.
Yes.
You know what? I think a few recently cut players that formerly were Steelers are definitely people to keep on the radar. LJ Fort, he was released today. That could be a decent fit now that Vince Williams is cut. But
he's a better version of UG3.
And
that's what LJ Fort is.
UG3 can't stay healthy either. And that's like, I believe it's his back that's been bugging him for his entire career at this point. And who even knows if UG3 is even on this team next year, which for a team that's in desperate need of inside linebacker depth, that could be a spot that they could be looking at. But as we approach the end of our show here, I kind of want to do a quick roundtable on two different thoughts, because I think these are pretty prevalent things floating around the Steelers kind of internet base right now. But starting off with the running back, I'll start with Geoffrey on this one, then go to Colin, then I'll answer it. But who do you think will be the Steelers' running back number 1 on week 1 of the 2021 season? Geoffrey?
Travis Etienne.
Woo! So they do go running back in the first round then.
They go first round running back. I won't be happy with that, but I think it's a possibility. I think that's the likely.
Interesting. Colin, what are your thoughts?
Honestly, I think with what they have in James Conner, I don't like it personally, but knowing the Steelers, I think they're going to stick with it.
Bring back Conner.
You know what? That was going to be the name I threw out there, because I did write the article today, and the reason is, from everything I'm hearing, there's no market on Conner at all. Like no one's putting calls in, and then on the flip side of that, the Steelers don't have money to sign someone, and their holes are so large. To take a running back in the first round would physically hurt my soul. It isn't a valuable position to me. I just wouldn't. I couldn't feel that. So to me, looking at who else is on the market, do you go with an old guy because he's cheap? Like Adrian Peterson's not a running back number 1. If you sign him, that means Benny Snell's your running back 1. So I hate to agree when it's a three-person round table here, but I think James Conner is still my pick. As much as it might pain some people to hear, I think that might be the guy.
If there's anybody else, I think it's Jalen Samuels. I really do.
Ooh, that would be interesting because he fell out of favor.
To me, in all honesty, that's just kind of it's keeping what you already have. You're not having to spend money, and you're not having to go and take high draft capital. In all honesty, I don't like it because I'm sorry, everybody we have as a running back is trash. But I could see them going
Samuels. I could see Samuels in the right situation, ending up being a valuable running back in Matt Canada's offense. After what, like he basically got drafted based on what he did as a wing back in Matt Canada's offense, and he's still his best usage. That is like. He is a guy that belongs in the NFL that no longer exists. He should be in a wingback offense. He's that dude. And he's going to get a chance. He's going to get a chance to try and revitalize that and do it again with Matt Canada. So I could see a situation where by the end of this season, people are like, whoa, Jalen Samuels, we thought he was terrible. And he is. As a feature running back, lining up in the backfield, running the ball, he's terrible.
I agree.
We'll see if he could recapture what he had in college as a wingback.
And he was coming out as a tight end. Let's not forget that. That was, I think people were generally surprised when they said running back when they're making that pick on stage.
Yeah, that was absolutely insane. They listed him as a tight end because they don't know what an H-back and a wing back is. They don't list those positions, but he never lined up in line. Ever. He was always behind the line as either a wing back or an H-back, but they listed him as a tight end because the NFL doesn't list wing back or H-back as a position anymore.
There you go. Now, the other question I want to get to, and I'm going to start with Colin on this one because Geoffrey kind of answered it, and I'm kind of going to try to prod at him to get another name out there. But as we sit here right now, if the Steelers were on the clock, who's the most likely pick at number 24? Colin, who would you be mock drafting that first round pick to the Pittsburgh
Honestly,
Steelers?
I hate to take it from somebody that I saw earlier, but it's the and I can't remember his name offhand right now, but it's the O lineman out of Oklahoma State.
Tevin Jenkins.
Yes.
Jenkins.
And to me, in all honesty, like I said, Geoffrey, I would love if they went defense, but I feel like our offensive line has been so depleted here recently. You've got to pick it up. I like the Zach Banner re-sign, and in all honesty, I feel like you put Kevin Dotson in there, and you've got three people that you can just anchor down on that O-line and build around.
It might be a little bit more of a challenge now that Zach Banner's been signed to a multi-year deal. He kind of anchors down that right spot. It'll be interesting if the Steelers don't add any more tackles before we get to the draft. It's definitely a spot that they might go. But Geoffrey, are you sticking with Travis Etienne, or who are we talking here?
You want me to give you a different one? I'll give you a different one.
If you want to.
Yeah, here's my different one, because I think that's a highly likely one. I'll give you another highly likely one for my opinion. Landon Dickerson. Center out of Alabama. He, if healthy, he'd be slightly lower. He'd be like Jeff Harding's level. He's not quite Marquise Pouncey, but he would be an absolute stud. Because that's what he is when he's healthy. He's an absolute stud, and he would make this run game. If you went to Castro, Dickerson,
Dotson,
thank you.
That's a lot of D's.
That's a run game. Mm-hmm. And then you put Banner outside them at right tackle, man. You could just all day.
Yeah.
Run the ball. Even Benny Snell could run behind that line.
Well, and I think that's what the Steelers have to get back to. You've got to build an O-line to get our run game back.
Yeah. Like I've said before, 2003, the Steelers were one of the worst run games in the NFL. They changed their scheme. They got a few players back on the offensive line. They changed like 2 offensive line positions, changed their scheme. And 2004, they were number 1 with old Deuce Staley and old Jerome Bettis. Like neither of them were prime guys, but that offensive line just destroyed everyone. It was scheme, offensive line, talent, boom, changed the game. They were dominant. Steelers could go that direction.
And you know what? If they're going to get one of the top centers in the draft, they probably have to do it at pick 24 because I can't really see Dickerson or Creed Humphrey lasting until 55. And then the guys after that, I don't think you want starting right away. And you don't want BJ Finney starting right away either. So
no.
They may tip their hand by whether or not they sign someone as we get closer to the draft. But if I'm going to throw out a name, I know I continuously throw Zaven Collins out there because he is that dude. Watch the film. He's that dude. If Christian Darrisaw somehow's there, like that would literally be like David DeCastro falling to the Steelers' lap also at 24, close to a decade ago now, which is kind of scary to think of. But if Darrisaw's there, you sprint the card up to the table. He is an unbelievable talent as a left tackle. Outside of that, running back is just it just pains me. I suppose. Oh man, like is Javonte Williams a first round pick? It's possible that Najee Harris could be gone, as well as Travis Etienne, with teams that have multiple first round picks, being the Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets. They both could be gone.
Good point.
If they're gone, the top tackles are gone. Those top 5 quarterbacks are gone. Then all of a sudden we're starting to ask ourselves, okay, how far do we want to reach for a player? Sure, it'd be nice to trade back, but who would be willing to do that dance with you? But we are at the top of our show. If you want more great Steelers content on all these topics, just click over to BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Also, listen to our entire family of podcasts. We got more stuff that comes out, not just on YouTube and Facebook, but also specifically anywhere you stream your podcast from. There's daily shows going up there each and every day. Before we get out, I want to make sure Colin and Geoffrey can get their plugs out. So, Colin, do you have anything going on that you want the people to know about?
Really, just keep an eye plugged to the Cadriac Hill. In all honesty, that's mainly where I'm keeping my time in between school and everything. And honestly, go Pitt and go Steelers.
Love it. Geoffrey, do you got any film rooms or any Vertexes coming out in the next couple of days?
I know I talked about Cameron Sutton and his changes in the offense. I'm working on a film room for that. It's going to be it's a deep dive. It's a rabbit hole I'm going down, so I have no clue when that's coming out. Possibly Friday if I'm happy with what I have, but likely Monday. So stay tuned for that. And if the Steelers make any free agent signings, I'm going to do something hopefully with Dave Schofield. I haven't talked to him yet. I'm just throwing him on the spot here for Vertex on any, if the Steelers make a major free agent signing, any names, look for those.
Oh, Steelers and major free agent signing. That's a line I don't know if I've ever heard in my time on God's green earth.
For major free agent signing, I'm talking like the Steven Nelson, Mark Barron, like they've actually had an NFL career type signing.
Okay, gotcha. Outside of that, make sure you're hitting that like button, subscribe, follow, do all those great things. It helps support us. It helps grow the brand, grow the show. Thank you all for tuning in. Much appreciated. And again, thank you to Colin and Geoffrey as always. Thanks, guys. And for all of you watching at home, we will see you next week.